My name is Katie White. I am the head of HR at Usborne Publishing, and it's been my job in the last couple of years that I've been working with Usborne to really help create an environment where all of our staff are able to enjoy working, have got all the tools that they need to do their job, and that we have the right people in-house to do the jobs that we need. What I'm going to do over the next hour and a half is host some of my colleagues to talk about their different departments, give you an overview of Usborne Publishing, and those individual members of staff which you'll hear from will also talk a little bit about their backgrounds, how they got into publishing, and actually what their job entails. What I'll do then is wrap at the end and talk a little bit about how you might think about getting into publishing, some of the routes to do that, and some top tips that we've learned along the way that might also help you get into that as a career.
Hi everyone. So I'm Nicola Usborne, I'm Deputy Managing Director, and as you saw in that video, I run all aspects of Usborne Publishing with my dad, who set up the company almost 50 years ago now. So that's me. Can we go to the next slide?
There we go.
So, my dad started the company, the name gives it away. So I'm slightly unusual in terms of the other people you're going to hear from today. So because I grew up with the company. But I didn't actually start working at Usborne until I was 45, I think. So in terms of what I did before that, I studied English, then I studied a sort of economics-based master's and then a business master's. And my first job in publishing was at an art publisher, where I did a lot of filing and made a lot of cups of tea. And then I had a writing job, and then I worked for many, many years in children's publishing in New York, where I worked in magazines, I worked in educational technology, I worked in gaming, and lots and lots of different parts. And then I moved back to the UK and started working at Usborne. I also worked as a film producer actually for many years. But I've really done children's publishing for a long, long time. So in terms of what I do every day, I have a very, very varied job. I have a fantastic job. Sometimes quite stressful, it's quite responsible, but it's a great job in many respects, because I believe that what we're doing at Usborne is very important. I'm very proud of the fact that we are making good books for children to learn from and to be inspired by. And I think that makes my job fantastic, because I come into the office every day knowing I'm going to be doing that. I also work at a company I really like, with people I really like. So I think it's I'm very lucky in many respects. But what do I do? Well, in a nutshell, if I have to put it sort of in buckets, I would say that as Deputy Managing Director, I have to think always about the strategy, where the company's going. What should we make? Should we only make books? Should we make other types of product? How many of them? How many books should we make and sell? Where should we sell them? How much should we sell them for? How do we want to grow? What's working? What isn't working? How do we change the parts of our business that aren't working? So constantly thinking, okay, where is this company going? What's happening in the market, and how do we respond to that? Have to obviously think about the product. The product is always the most important thing. Is it as good as it possibly can be? Again, what areas, what ages do we want to publish for? What subject areas do we want to cover? I have to think about the business element constantly. You can make the best product in the world, but if you're selling less of it than you're spending to make the product, you will go bust as a company. I have to think about cash flow, which is when your money is coming in relation to when it's going out. Again, you can be getting enough money in. If it's coming in too much after you're paying it out, again, you'll have problems as a company. So, constantly thinking about the numbers as well as the product. The staff are crucial, very, very important. How are they? How is the work they're doing? Are they happy? Are they growing? Um, are they doing the right things, etc. And then giving back. You have to think when you run a company what your goals are. And we sometimes talk about 3 Gs, which is good books, good jobs, and good charity. So sort of giving back beyond just making good books is an important part of Usborne. So we have to think about what other organisations we like to support. So it's a very varied job, and I do a different thing every day. And I would say it's my job to think both big in terms of the big direction, the big ideas, but also it is very, very important that you go into a lot of detail. I read every word of every book. I must do that, as well as thinking about the sort of big plan for the business. So that's sort of what I do. Um, so, just to clarify, I mean, publishing, I think, is a very vague word. And sometimes people say, well, what exactly do publishers do? Well, obviously, there are lots of different types of publishers. There are magazine publishers, music publishers, book publishers. But basically, broadly, what book publishers do is they create the books, they organize the printing of the books, they market the book, so they put together, all the material about why people buy it, and then they sell the books. Um, we do sell sometimes direct to the end reader, but and we do that sort of online, etc. And that's happening more and more. But we also sell a lot to bookshops, and those are bookshops high street, but also bookshops, online bookshops. And, people sell our books everywhere. They sell them in museums and in garden centres and in zoos, etc. So they're all over. That is what publishers do. I'm actually going to cover something that I think there's a slide about later, but just because my dad mentioned it in the video, that we're actually a little bit different, in that we at Usborne have people at Usborne who both write the books, who we call editors, and design the books. A lot of people think publishing is full of people basically sort of writing stories, but in most publishing companies, there aren't that many people writing the actual books. And generally, the authors don't work for the company, but the publishers sort of buy in the rights to publish a book in a certain territory for a certain amount of time. But whereas at Usborne, we have lots and lots of writers in-house and lots of designers. You're going to meet some of them today. So that is broadly what publishers do. So what do we particularly at Usborne do? Well, you always have to think about what place your company sort of sits in the broader market. And you've got lots and lots of different types of publishers. You've got academic publishers, you've got publishers who only publish books for adults, you've got publishers who publish everything. But we are very focused on being a publisher for children. And that is what we do. We publish around 350 new books every year, and we publish fiction, so stories as well as non-fiction. So you'll see a lot up there, books about economics, about flamingos, about friends, about weather. And we publish really books from baby age up until what we call young adults, so for teenagers. When I say babies, obviously those babies are not reading the books themselves, but it's very, very important for kids' literacy development that they are read to from a very young age. So a lot of our books are to be read very young. And we sell our books all over the world. I think, and you'll see some here, I think our books are published in well over 100 languages, so really everywhere. And here you've just got a typical bookshelf at Usborne where you've got one book being translated into multiple. It really is an amazing thing to see, because we get a copy of each of these books, and we have some pretty amazing bookshelves as a result. So that is us. Again, I think this was just talking about how we're a bit different in terms of having writers in-house. So I think, I give talks like this quite often. And one thing I always stress is that there are lots and lots of very, very different types of jobs in publishing. It is not just people writing books. We have about 270 staff members, and there are many, many different types of jobs, and done by people with very different skills, very different interests, very different backgrounds. And so, I always try and stress that, that look further than thinking it's only about the writing. So here are some examples of some teams that we have at Usborne Publishing: editors, who are really the people who research and write the books; designers, the people who think about how the book will look, how it will be illustrated; production, and you're going to meet people who will tell you more about this; production, the people who organize the printing and putting the book together; sales, the people who sell the books in the UK and all over the world; marketing and publicity, who promote the books; foreign language publishing at Usborne, these are the people who organize the books that we publish in all sorts of different languages. We have a finance team who deal with all the numbers; human resources, which Katie does. We have an IT team, we have an office administration team, that run all our offices, and more. So lots and lots of different types of jobs in publishing. And if you're interested in the industry, then do look at the range of the type of people that are needed.